Good afternoon, Gareth.
Afternoon, gents. How are we?
Yeah, we're good, thanks. And yeah, a couple of new faces in there. Well done to Matt Targett from Southampton. He's been playing very well, and he's got himself into the squad.
Yeah, he's been part of our under-20s, and I know there's a clear progression from the 21s to the seniors, but we also want that to come from the teams underneath. We've got Jack Robinson, who's missing injured, so we felt that Matt's the next one in, and it'd be good to work with him. And yeah, another product of Southampton's academy, which is of course really strong.
We've seen that transition with Harry Kane going into the senior side, and we've got this kind of joined-up thinking, which is pretty clear between you and Roy, because he's already talked about the tournament next summer and his willingness and the fact he would like to play. So it's not necessarily the case that a player steps into the senior side and that's him done with the under-21s, is it?
No, I mean we had that for the playoffs with Luke Shaw coming back and playing with us. We've got John Stones and Callum Chambers involved with us this time, so I think all of these lads are on the fringes of the first team. They've not necessarily established themselves quite yet. It's different, obviously, for somebody like Raheem, who I think's a starter now. But for the rest, there's still that bit of progress to go, and we think part of their development is to go to a tournament where it's not just about going to a tournament, but we want to go there and really attack it and develop a winning mentality. And we think that can only be positive for them as a group.
Harry Kane's progress has been pretty stellar. I mean, he's been scoring goals for you for quite a while, but I mean, he's just come on so rapidly. I mean, did you see this?
I think anybody who said they could see what he's done over the last few months would be lying, really. I think it's not in that he didn't have the talent, but you don't expect a young player to go in and play as consistently and as well as he has. We know he's an outstanding finisher from working with him. Of course, players need an opportunity, and you've got to give everybody at Spurs over the last year or so credit for giving him that opportunity, but most of all Harry for taking that opportunity, because that's why he's progressing. He's got a good mindset to improving, and I don't think that will change by getting a call up to the senior. I think he's level-headed enough to take that in his stride.
What is encouraging is for example, the number of strikers we've got coming through. I mean, Roy's picked 4 really top ones. You've got Saido Berahino, who's had a chance at the senior level. Danny Ings, who's definitely attracting a lot of interest. And I'm interested as a Chelsea fan in Patrick Bamford, who you've picked as well, who seems to be progressing nicely.
I think we're very fortunate. I mean, I think 2 years ago, Stuart didn't have really strikers that were playing regularly in first teams. And we've got Callum Wilson, who's one of the top scorers in the Championship. We've got a couple of lads who haven't quite got in the squad. Benica Phobie, who's really on fire at Wolves at the moment. So we have got depth, and Patrick is playing really well at Middlesbrough. And again, it's opportunity. And I think people are seeing young English players play well in the first team. It's giving other coaches and managers confidence to put them in. And everywhere I look, we've got great competition for places, but there are young players that are emerging and doing really well.
Now, you've got 2 games coming up. Czech Republic are going to be hosting the European Championships in the summer. There'll be a strong competition. And then back at the Riverside, a ground you know well, it's Germany. And it's an interesting fixture, that, because they were kind of used as the blueprint, that group of young German players that came through from the under-21s, developed, went into the full squad, and of course went on to win a World Cup. So there's a lot. I think a lot of countries can learn from the way Germany managed that.
Yeah, and I think Spain did exactly the same over the last few years as well. What we feel is that at the moment, over the last couple of years, Roy's decided to put some younger players in. He wants to look at players that he believes can be good enough in the future. But we think it will get harder to get into that squad as time goes on, because the depth of talent is increasing. And that will then mean that we're stronger at each age group, working its way through. So we want it to be a competition. Germany will be tough. We deliberately picked 2 games in November against Portugal and France that were very real good exercise for us. And again, these 2 will really test us, and we've got to have that. There's no point in bringing players in for matches that don't really test and challenge them. We had a few of those in the qualifying, so now we'll really find out what sort of level we're at.
This is a bit of a mad question on the face of it, not strictly on your remit, but someone like Ryan Mason is 23. He's been a latecomer. He's showing some skill. He can't play for the 21s, and he's not quite made the seniors, and that may change. But I don't know if you ever played England B, but we did have a period where we had an England B side. Have they ever talked about the possibility of doing that again?
It's a good point, because we've obviously got a group of players now who will come to the end of their eligibility for the under-21s, and what is the next step if they don't get into that senior team? Frankly, I don't want to run any more teams. I think I have enough work on my plate at the moment. But by all means, if you want to run one, Paul, then there's a place. But yeah, I mean, I think Ryan Mason is a classic. We've got boys like Tom Carroll, Jesse Lingard in our squad who physically are late developers, and I think Ryan Mason had a lot of injuries for a period, and it has taken that bit longer, and he's missed a bit of that international development. And it's one of the areas where, for example, if we were to get a team in the Olympics, what brilliant experience for players of that sort of age group.
It is interesting, though, that a number of your players are on loan from the sort of what you'd consider the top echelon club. Like Tom Carroll, you mentioned there, on loan from Tottenham, Chalobah, on loan from Chelsea.
Alex Pritchard at Brentford.
Lingard. And you do hope, I'm sure every fan feels this, you just hope these kids do get a chance with the parent club eventually, because I think that's the way forward for these clubs, these teams to develop. Players to develop, rather.
Yeah, and I think obviously the bigger the club, the tougher and the higher the standard is to get in, and it is more difficult at a top 4, top 6 club. But I think the product that is coming through the club academies now is improving. Technically it's improving. I think if you speak to those leading academy managers, they're more confident that the boys that are coming through now can challenge for those places at those bigger clubs. Chelsea have had the likes of Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Lewis Baker, very close to it this season in terms of the English boys, as well as obviously Aki and Christensen and people. So Spurs have put a number of young players in, and Louis van Gaal has also been very brave in playing a lot of young players at United. So we feel there are real positive signs for youth development in this country, but of course, at international level, we have to go and try and succeed at some of these tournaments now.
Finally, Gareth, as we just hearing from Toby there, Tom Ince has decided he doesn't want to be part of the squad. I mean, I think you've had conversations with him. Were you surprised that he felt he couldn't play at this time for the under-21s?
I have to say I was surprised, because we didn't have any indication of it before. And when you've been through all the, shall we say, less glamorous qualifying matches, to have the chance to go to a European finals was something that you assume everybody is going to want to do. But Tom feels he's been around the under-21 set-up for probably 4 or 5 years now, and he feels that the club situation is really important for him. So that's his decision. Only time will tell if that's a good one. And for us, we have to move on, wish him well, but we've got some real depth in talent to come in.
I mean, would you feel this is potentially damaging for him if he's looking to make that progression and wants to play for his country? Well,
I had to make that point to him, and then a conversation I had with his dad, who I obviously know well, having played with him, that there's a potential for a difficult reaction to the decision, but that's a decision that they've made, and I guess it's important that they're able, that they get the opportunity to articulate exactly why they wanted to do that, and hopefully for him as an individual it works out.